Not upside down this time. Yeah, thanks. Hi, Streaky. I hope you made it through your client's work. Yeah, I was working with Alison Limerick today. If you're a house buff, if you like house music, Alison Limerick track Where Love Lives, doing some remastering work for her today. So epic to meet her. When I was younger, that was like a big tune of mine. So yeah, it was excellent to meet her. So yeah, good day really. A lot of mastering, so I'm quite tired. So hopefully I won't bore you too much. But can you hear me okay? Can you see me all right? Matt, let me know. Okay, I will answer some questions. Have you got any questions you'd like to ask? Just trying to think what I've been asked this week for the thing. Do you like the mug? It's a key speaker mug that I got for free. Cheers. I would like a beer. Yeah, a beer would be nice. Thanks, Matt. So let me, if you haven't got any questions to go, let me just fire some off that I've been asked. 10K mug, yeah. I've actually got the keys at the back at the moment, so I'm kind of checking them out again. I've got the focals, obviously, but the keys are great. What do I think of MD3? What's MD3? Can you remind me? Is that a Masalek MD3? Aaron, is that what you're saying? Hi, Jesse. How are you doing? My questions are up there. Are they really? Okay, let me see. Oh, TC Electronics, MD3. Okay, yeah, I remember. So I had one of those at Metropolis. The only thing I liked off of at Metropolis was the limiter on that. So was that the MD3? I can't remember. I really can't remember now. But the rest of it, the compressor, I never got working that well on the TC6000. The EQ was okay. I didn't really use it. The main thing was I used the limiter. I think it had MS mode in it, if I remember rightly. So yeah, I liked that. But yeah, it was a bit overkill. The whole box was crazy money, and it was, you know, it did everything you want it to do as an all-in-one mastering box, and it did sound good, but it was just, yeah, I mean, you have so many other tools, just having that was a bit weird. Yeah, the brick wall limiter, that's exactly the thing I used. Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I used it. I used it all the time, actually. I used to use it in a combination with other stuff, but as an outboard digital compressor, yeah. Do I clip my converters? I don't on the prisms. I did a video yesterday, actually, on the Lavery Gold, which sounded great. Have a check that video out on YouTube, and I'm explaining on there about how I'm clipping limiters and if I'm clipping them. So on those, on the Lavery, you can kind of use this soft saturation thing that adds a bit of EQ and a bit of stuff. It kind of works really well. On the Apogees I used to smash the overs on there and get a little bit more kind of grit and grime, but on the prisms I don't like the sound of it on the prisms to get that level. I'd rather do that with a limiter afterwards because I just think it doesn't sound very nice. So next, so Frank, do you put a limiter before SonarWorks output to avoid internal plug-in clipping? SonarWorks is on my output bus. If you've seen the video where I'm showing you the setup, it's on the very output, so I don't need to, it's after all the limiters and stuff are all happening because they need to go on to the sound of the mastering. So all of that's happening, getting recorded. Then I'm listening to the recorded channel on another channel, so I can then adjust the level of that channel going out to my output. And obviously I can adjust the level of SonarWorks if I need to or if I'm using it. So I kind of have that on a separate channel so that I can adjust my output to the speakers and have a little bit more control. So I don't know if that's answered your question. I think it probably has. Should you bother with it? So Aaron's saying, should I bother with the MD3 on your power core? Listen to it. If you like it, then yeah. I think it's got a sound. It's like any limiter. They have a sound and a vibe. It's just how much you want to use it and how much you smash it. So I don't think there's any rule for what limiter works and what doesn't. It's just there are so many now on the market that I don't think you need to... Having an external one works quite well in some setups, and sometimes it just works using the ones in the box, but you need to use your ears. I wouldn't just always try and keep... If you've got limiters, sometimes a lot of the limiters only handle stuff up to about a dB, and that's it really. Apart from that, they start getting a little bit sucky, apart from the fab filter, which kind of gives you a fair bit. Do you end up saving 5 DAW projects for a 5-song EP? Yes. Each one adding one more. Yeah, so if I've got a 5-track EP, after every song, I'll do... in the course, I tell you about how I do my setup. So I run one for the main setup to start with, and then every track I'll save of that. So I've got all the plugin settings and all the level gains and things that I've done for that track. So I'll do that for 5, and then at the end I'll save it's like a global one where it's got all of the tracks in mastered, so I can then go through and listen to those and do any level adjustments that I need to do. So yeah, that's kind of 5, and then the great thing about that is you can then pop back and get the track back exactly how you want it, because a lot of people that I'm working for, they'll come back months later for say instrumental or PA version or something, so I need it to be exactly the same as I had. So by doing that, I can get it back exactly the same. Any of my outboard equipment, I take photographs, so I've got a kind of Evernote file and it on the screen too. So yeah, it's works quite well. Just put in the questions again. Yeah, sorry, Janice. Equipment, system-wise, trying to get a proper first master setup. Wow, this is a long question. Can you put them separately? It's a bit weird. Did you recommend Rosetta as first mastering converter? Which did you have? The 800 or just the AD? Pay the max second. Would you recommend to use one system as a starting point, hybrid? Setup would be Rosetta as A to D, analog chain, and a laptop, or go straight to, oh my God, this question. Different mastering rates, would you mean invest? Oh my God. Monitoring, if we go for studio speakers, you recommend 800. Okay, fine. So basically, yeah, I used to have a Rosetta 200. I do think that there's, for a cheap converter, it's good. There's better stuff on the market now because the chips have got better. I like the Rosetta. It has got a good sound. When I tested it against some other ones a long time ago, I liked it. I'd be looking at something like a Prism Lyra or a Pure 2, the Antelope one. I haven't heard it, but I've heard great stuff about it, and I just know that from the ins and outs, the things like that, and the high-low or helo, or however you want to pronounce it. There's a whole kind of plethora of D to A, A to D kind of monitor controllers that you can get now for around 1,500 to £2,000. They're going to be much better than a Rosetta, and you're going to get more longevity out of it. So you could probably have one of those for about 10 years, where the Rosetta, the only problem with that now is that it's Firewire. So obviously every computer is USB-C, and as Matt will testify, who's watching, we've had a nightmare with that recently to try and get my UAD to be USB-C. So I would say Rosetta kind of, it's okay, but it's a bit old school now. Go for something that you're going to get longer use out of. For a set of monitors, you're talking about B&W. B&W speakers are fantastic if you get the Nautilus range, but you need to get the kind of newish ones, not the brand new ones. You can get the ones that you see at Abbey Road. That, as long as it's got the Nautilus tweeter across the top, then it should be fine. I mean, they're really nice. They've got a good low end on them. As long as you've got a good amp powering them, they can, they're still expensive speakers. It depends on the size of your room, if they can handle how much power they're putting out, and there's plenty of other things. By the time you've bought a set of those for, I don't know, £4,000 and an amp for £3,000, there's other great speakers out there that you can get. So I'd have a bit of a shop around. Things are getting so much cheaper when it comes to really good quality sounding stuff. So I don't think there's any need to go for anything too old. Evening Woofu. with the Prism hardware, do you use bundled Verifile software checker on your files? No, I haven't used it. I've never used their... I know they've got some system, Prism, but I've never used it. I've not tried it. Maybe I should. I'll give it a go, see what I think. Angel, hello, good evening. You say that you come from a DA about -10 dB full scale, then step the gain up about 9 dB and hit the AD, more. Hit the AD about -1 and then 6 dB of plug-in limiters. That's all about plus 15 dB. That way you gain also noise floor from 15 dB. Is it better idea to go DA, not -10 but -1 full scale, and that way no 10 dB of 15 dB noise floor? No, because basically I want to go into, if I'm going, we're talking about analog here, so if I'm going out of my D to A, I want to have enough space to be able to gain stage through my equipment. That is part of the sound, and also taking, really what you're trying to do is your system should have kind of no noise on it anyway. That's the whole point of a lot of the setup stuff that I talk about in the course, is to get your leads and to get your mains and to get your room so that you haven't got, your noise floor is super low anyway. So even if you're adding 10 dB or 15 dB, what you're doing, that noise is usually coming from the bits of equipment that you've got in the chain, and so that's nice noise. That's noise we want. So that's kind of noise from a tube, something tubey, or an EQ, where if you're adding EQ, it's adding level, and you're not really noticing the noise floor as much. You don't really notice that hissy sound. I noticed on the Fusion I'm working with that I've got in the chain at the moment, the vintage drive has got loads of noise on it, which is not great for mastering, obviously, because you don't want to add noise that you don't want, but it does add a vibe. So having a bit of noise is not a problem. The only time I find noise a problem on a master is if it's really hissy or there's loads of rumble and hum. And if that's getting in the way of the master, and if that's changing the master in a detrimental way, then yeah, you don't want it. And so you need to look at your system and see, oh, I've probably got my noise floor too high in the first place. But I want to gain stage through the equipment because that's what adds flavour and style and vibe and things. So that's why I work back through with that. I wouldn't want to come straight into my equipment at full level because I won't be able to do anything with the equipment. I haven't got any space to move. I've got no space to move, move the EQ around. I need probably 4 dB just to get some EQ on the track. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Did you get rid of all your, Daniel, did you get rid of all your Maselec gear? EQs, multiband, what analog digital gear did you replace them with? Well, I had loads of Maselec gear at Metropolis. I had loads of every bit of gear at Metropolis, and I've got rid of all of the things that I didn't use every day. So I had, like, if you look at that old video of my setup at Metropolis, I've literally got every bit of mastering equipment you could get, and I've got probably 4 Maselec EQs, and I never used one of them. So when I was setting up my own place, and I'd already sold a lot of my Maselec gear because I was doubling and trebling up at Metropolis when I went there. So when I left Metropolis, all I wanted to do was get the equipment that I knew I'd use every day so that I could have a permanent chain set up. I didn't want to go through a box of any kind. I just wanted to go in and out so that I could keep my leads short and just make it so that it was just one system that had a sound. And so really it was a matter of just chaining that stuff up so that I got a sound with my analog equipment. And if there wasn't something I wasn't using, then I didn't want to use it. I love the Maselec multiband. It's brilliant. I'd have one back, but it's kind of, I use in the box. I like the Fab Filter multiband now, so I like that. It's good. It's not. I can do other things with it. I can manipulate it more. As you'll see in the dynamics and the EQ videos, how I'm using that, and so. I can do different things with that. I might get one of those back at some point. I might get a Maselec MLA3, I think they're called now. They've got an expander on them, so I'm interested in that. I might get a little bit of that back. I really like the DSO that I used to have. So yeah, but the thing is, it's like I love all this stuff, and there's loads of stuff I love. I love the Crane Song compressor that I had. That had a sound to it, but it's like too much stuff and too many things. You've just got too many things, and you want to put them on every track, and you end up then with 20 things on one track. And as I keep saying all the time, it's about being minimal and not having everything on everything all the time. And so it's really tempting when I've got a load of equipment in the room to just go, yeah, I'll have that bit of that because I know it's nice, and I'll have a bit of that. And it's like you just end up doing stuff and then having to EQ that back, and you're going to get a cleaner thing when you've just got one or two items. So when it came to the Maselect stuff, I didn't need it. I wasn't using it all the time. I wasn't using the EQ, that's for sure, all the time. So it is lovely gear. It's lovely to have. Maybe I'll get a bit back now we've talked about it. I feel like I'm quite keen again. How many reference tracks, Aaron, how many reference tracks should I use? A plugin called Magic AB where I load up to 9 tracks. How many would you typically use? Yeah, I've seen this AB thing. When it comes to reference tracks, I will ask a client for a reference track. I don't listen to reference tracks that are on Tidal when I'm working on someone's track, because the only reason I'm listening to reference tracks in Tidal is to get an idea of how my room sounds always, so that I just know that's how my room sounds. So I'm listening to those reference tracks all the time. Anything moves or changes, I'm back listening to the reference tracks, and I'm only listening to them, like I say, to understand my room and know that's how things should sound in here, so that when I've got a track that comes up, I know how my speakers and my room should sound, so I'll know straight away what to do, because I can hear it's dull, or I can hear that it's like muddy, or how whatever it needs. And so, because I know the room and I know the reference tracks and I've spent time listening to those, if I was to reference, it's very difficult to reference against another track to then master, because you're going to always try and do what that track's doing, and you can't do that. It's because it's going to have been mixed and produced in a different way to the track you're working on. So to try and make it sound that way, I don't want to do that. I want to make it sound my way, and I know, okay, have I got enough bass on there? Is it punching up? I don't want to listen to someone else's track and try and compete with someone else's track. The only time I'll do that is if somebody gives me a reference of a master and that they've done, so that I've got that above and that below, and I can flick in between and see what they're doing, so that I can get an understanding of what they've been listening to. I think I've said before that every time I get a track in from a record label, they will always give me the reference master that they listened to originally. So I can then compare against that, and I know, okay, at least I'm either the same as what they've given me, or I can better that, and hopefully you can always better it. It's a great thing to have. And the only time I'll ask people for reference tracks and go off them is more for level, so I can understand, you know, how much level they want to get on their music. I don't really care about the EQ, because I know how that should sound and how I want that to sound, so I don't really want to listen to someone else's work, really. Okay, let's go back. Do you use any hardware metering? No, I don't. I have done in the past. I've used the RTW. I'm thinking of getting one of those TC, because they're really cheap at the moment, so I was going to get one anyway. They're like 250 quid, that TC box, just to have as something there, so that I might look at it. I use 1 meter only most of the time. And obviously within most plugins that you're using, they've got spectrum analyzers and things, so you can kind of see what's going on there, but I never have used spectrum analyzers. I've used my ears and not my eyes. I'm listening after all, so I don't really see a benefit in having a spectrum analyzer to look at. I don't need to see where things are right or wrong, because I can hear what's right and wrong. And I might use one of those vectroscopes occasionally, just to see what the mono and stereo information is. I was using one today, but you know, it's just a quick flick to one, really, and sometimes that's just to kind of work out the balance on things, not to see how big the stereo signal is. And yeah, I usually just use VU, so I can see what RMS I'm going to. But yeah, that TC loudness thing is, yeah, I might get one. Loving the course so far, thanks Ian. How room design, how beneficial is it to have a floating floor? Do you have floating floor in your studio? This studio is a little bit, floating floor is good, obviously, because you're going to have resonances going through the floor. So you either have your speakers on decouplers or you kind of decouple the floor from the building. A lot of the time to have a floating floor is more for is more so that you haven't got rumble going outside or coming in, you know, if you're recording. So a lot of it is about separation and having a room within a room. I don't actually have a room within a room here. I've got really thick walls. There's no one else in the building, and so I don't need to soundproof it. The floor is an old wooden floor, which is cool. It works. I'm sure there's resonances going on. I've got the speakers decoupled from the floor, so that works really well. And I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, if you can float the floor, then better, more for sound translation really than sound. I mean, it depends on what level you're working at. If we're talking sterling sound, like you've got 500 grand to build a room, then yeah, put it on some big fat springs. Check out Northwood Acoustics. Their website, how they build rooms are just amazing. I want one, but you know, I need £500,000 to get one, or at least a couple of 100,000 that I want to build a room with. And yeah, I'm not that keen. I'm getting a good sound. Aaron, I have a hardware backs. Is it safe to cut frequencies at 28 hertz or even 18k to get a smooth top end? Yeah, of course. If it needs it, cut it. I go into detail on the backs. I've got a backs. I love the backs. Brilliant. If you haven't got the software version, then get the software version. If you haven't got the hardware, you've got the hardware, which is cool. So yeah, I'll go into that. You can see all that in the course. That's all over the course basically. So yeah, it's something to look forward to if you've got a backs. Should I be considering a DS1 for top end smoothness? So yeah, I really like that. Not a DS1. I mean, I don't think you need that. It's a bit overkill. You can use the two plugins I'd suggest using are Soothe and the Vice. I did a video for my YouTube channel on the Vice de-esser, so check that out because that's talking about sorting out a bit of smoothness in the high end. So yeah, go and see that video, and I go through all of that. After 25 years mastering, so this is from Antonio. After 25 years of mastering, how do you feel about your job and your path today? Long. Do you remember going through tough times and not giving up every week? Would appreciate. Okay, so listen, if you're running your own business, whether it's anything, and like anything in life, it's peaks and troughs. So every mastering engineer I know and I've worked with go through weeks, maybe a month, where you have no work coming in. And this is, I'm talking about like top guys as well. And you think you're never going to master a track again. And then suddenly you've got an avalanche of work and you don't know whether you're coming or going. So it's really up and down, and it's about kind of trying to make sure the downs aren't as bad as they can be. But a lot of people, like in life, when 1 minute you've got loads of money, next minute you've got none, it's about kind of trying to keep that road smooth with your cash flow. So with any business, you've got to run it. Cash flow is king. So you've got to make sure that you've saved the money in the good times for when the bad times come, because the bad times are going to come, and you've got to kind of try and limit that bad time. It's like anything. Everyone has a number. And so everyone has, say for instance, you get down to your last £500 or 1,000. That's when you really pull out the bag and you work, and then you bring money in. And it's like, so make sure you try and keep that number as high as you can. And that's, you know, there is weeks when I've got nothing on, and there's weeks when I'm really busy. I'm mega busy at the moment, hence why we're late today. But there are weeks when I don't have anything on, and then I have to fill that time with doing other things. The things that I do when I'm in the low points is marketing, do all the little jobs to the studio that I need to do, so that, you know, I don't get down about it. I used to work with Kevin Metcalf, who didn't know how to do any marketing, and didn't know how to repair equipment, and didn't know anything about rooms or anything that we're talking about in the course. He was just a pure mastering engineer. Track comes in, he's like a machine, does it, out the door. So if he didn't have a track coming in that day, he was just going mental, you know, didn't know what to do with himself. And it was just painful to watch, or painful to have him around, because he was just moaning and being miserable. But they're the times where you've got to like buckle up, get stuck into fixing your equipment, finding ways to get some more work in, speaking to the people that you haven't spoken to for a while, and really digging deep and you know, making use of that time. It's really easy to sit there and get negative, but you've really got to kind of just crack on and yeah, you've got to you know, see yourself through that. Now, that's the tough times. How do I feel about my job and path today? So my job, it's love and hate. It's like any job after a while. There's days when you love doing it and there's days when they're not. When I'm in those kind of troughs with the work itself, I still like doing it. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't like doing it. I've done other things on the side to kind of see if I like doing something else. And I haven't. I've always come back to mastering, and I've always come back to, I just enjoy doing it. I don't know why anymore, because I don't like it. I don't like music the same as I did 30 years ago, 25 years ago, because there's no reason why I would. Then I was going out to clubs and things all the time. It's really changed the way that it changes for everybody as you get older, for your appreciation for music and sound and things, and that's kind of developed, and I'm more into, you know, how things sound and why they sound, and I love getting things sounding good because I know I can. So that's a real good buzz about mastering, and I love doing that, and I love clients loving what I do, and it's just instant ego rub gratification. So from that point of view, I love it. It's brilliant. I love doing this. I love telling people how to do stuff and helping them, and that's been really, I just love doing this. This is really helpful. It's made me look at what I do and realise what I know. So at the moment, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying setting up the studio, having some new assistants on board and growing things and keeping things interesting. And I think that's what you've got to do in any job or any career that you do. You should always do something that you love, because when you're in the dark times, when you haven't got the money or you haven't got any work coming in, and you know, you've got bills to pay, the bills don't stop. So you have to love what you do, otherwise you're going to fall off a cliff. So I hope that helps. Val, how are you working with annoying clients if they can't stop remake things and want more and more versions? Okay, so there's rules that you need to have, some guidelines on how you run your thing basically with clients, and they need to know how that is. I'll do endless revisions for people to a point so it's not endless, but most amateurs will always come back and want a tweak 100%. Like John Davis at Metropolis would always say to me, I'm not even going to bother the first time, because they'll want to tweak for the next one. They'll always come back for a tweak, whether you've really like gone to town and really you've nailed it, because they're so used to the sound that they've made themselves. When you give them your new sound, it's going to be different, and they can't get their head around that. Record companies never come back for a tweak. They've moved on. They go to the next thing. You know, the A&R guy or the A&R supervisor or whoever it is will send you the track over. They know you can do the job. You do the job. You send it back. They won't come back because they're on to doing the video, or they're on to doing something else. They've got jobs to do. They need to do them. So record companies are usually a dream, because they trust you. You'd think amateurs, people, independents would trust you a bit more, but they don't. They're so into it and so in depth that they kind of will come back and ask for different things, which is fine. Look, you're here to make sure the customer is happy with what they want, and I want them to love what I do, because as I just said in the previous thing, that's my buzz. That's why I do it. I do it because I want somebody to listen to it from what they had and be blown away with what I've done. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it? That's my job. That's what I love doing. So if they don't like it, it kind of hurts, and then I just want to help. I want to get it better, so I don't care about doing tweaks and changes, because I want it to be right for them. If it gets to the point where, if they're sending me new mixes, it depends on how much they've changed that mix to when I'll say you need to pay again, because I can't just do a tweak on something where it's a new mix, because I've got to start again from scratch. If they've really changed the bass, or they've moved the mix around balance wise, that's going to affect most of my equipment that it's running through. So I need to charge them again, because I've got to start again, so it's going to take the whole time again. If it's just a tweak where they want it louder, or they want it just a touch brighter, then that's no problem. I can do that fairly quickly and easily, and I'll do that. If they don't like it at all and they want it tighter or whatever, it's just if they present a new mix that they need to be billed again, basically, because it's starting again from them and me. So you've just got to be hard and say, no, this is the way it works. And if they don't like that, they have to go somewhere else where someone will tweak every single mix until they're happy. So that you've just got to try and work with your clients, try and keep them happy, try and get the sound that they want. And if they start getting unreasonable, then sometimes you've got to sack your clients. Frank, tech track house used in the course, how did you get some of the dynamics back? Expanders, what a horrible scenario that was. Well, Frank, Matt is actually my assistant. It's his track, and he's in the chat now, so you can tell him that it didn't sound very good. Woofu, in the course, had a very heavy limited track sent in, -5 RMS. How would you go about compressing this track? My question is, why would you compress the track? Warm it up, add some more dynamics. Okay, so if something comes in really smashed, then I'll bring it down in level. You can then kind of tuck into it with a bit of EQ, and I just treat it the same as if it's another track. If I think about it that way, it's I will just cut into it. I'll move things around. I'll tighten the bass up. I'll just try and work it and try and open it up and get stuck into it with a bit of EQ here and there to just try and get some life back into it. If it's smashed, it's smashed at the end of the day. So you're only going to be able to do so much. But I need to bring it down in level so that I can go through some plugins or some equipment or whatever, so that I can then bring some peaks back into it and EQ some stuff around it. It's compressed. That's just the sound of the track. You've just got to work with it and do the best you can for that. That particular track that I showed you in the course, the guy loved what I did afterwards. So, and I show you the mastered version in there. So yeah, you check it out for yourself. It kind of got a little bit of the dynamics back. You're never going to get them all back, but you've just got to kind of add to it and hope that works. Poiter. Hi Streaky. Teglia Cream or SSL Fusion. Cream has 2-section EQ and comp. SSL is more complex without bus compressor. I know you like both. But which one would you choose? PS Matt, the camera's run out of battery, the main camera. Would you like both? If you could choose only one, which would you take? It's difficult really, because the Fusion and the Cream are two different beasts. The Fusion is a colour box where it's adding drive and things like that, and it's kind of doing stereo width, and it's got an EQ on it. So it's a bit of a different thing. I love the Teglia Cream. It's amazing. The EQ on it is superb. I'd get the Teglia Cream first. If you've only got that budget, I'd get the Teglia Cream, and tell him you sent me. You were sent from me, and you might get a discount. So yeah, I would do that. In fact, I might ask Teglia if we can get a discount for you guys, because yeah, that'd be cool. If anyone's interested in one. I have a TC Clarity M. I like it a lot. Yeah, that's the thing I'm talking about, I think, where it's is that the thing? Yeah, I might get one. Have you tried all-in-one mastering plugins? Yeah, I don't like all-in-one mastering plugins. I'll go into that in the EQ course, actually. The reason why I don't like them is because you're only getting one sound, which is the sound of that all-in-one unit. And the way I like to get things sounding is by having a few different things making a few different sounds, and then it's the combination of those sounds that actually makes a sound. So you're not going to get that by using one plugin. That's why just using Ozone or Brainworks or something, it's only going to give you, it's going to give you a certain sound, but it's that sound and it's their sound. So I want to use other things to do. I like having more control over stuff than I can get off one of those. And I like different things for different reasons. So no, I think all in one, it'll get you in the ballpark, as I say about getting in the ballpark, and then you've got your extra 20%. It won't get you that extra 20%. It won't get you a sound that you like. So I use different things for different things, really. So no, I don't like them. In week 2, you talk about bass traps for corners. Would you say thick rock wool can be suitable for making these? Yeah, if not, but okay. So, do you have any advice on building them? Yeah. So basically, there is, I think it's RW45. Tell me if I'm wrong. Something. There's certain rock wools that have a density and are always used in bass traps, and so you need to get as much of that into your room as possible. You can't have enough of that stuff. It's a bit itchy, but it comes in slabs. You want to get the stuff that comes in slabs because you can cut it with a razor blade easily, and then you can then make that into whatever shapes that you want. The stuff that you get for your loft insulation and things are no good because they haven't got the right density, so they're not going to trap frequencies in the same way. So yeah, build those. There's plenty of people on eBay and YouTube telling you how to build them. Super simple. Build a frame, put the rock wool in, pull some cloth round, and staple the cloth on, and Bob's your uncle. That's it. And get as many as you can in the corners. Obviously, I've said all the corners. You need to get back, front, all the kind of basic areas covered that you'll see in the course. What's your technique for using multiple limiters to achieve loudness on stem mastering or master bus? I'm not using a master bus really. I'm going out of my, the track's going into one channel and then out of another channel. So on that channel with the plugins, with the limiters, I use a few different limiters. I don't think, like I just said about having different things for different things, having just one, I've got to get about 6 dB of gain after the sort of, once I'm at 0 dB, so or peak ppm, so I've got to get about another 6, so I've got to add that with a few different limiters. Just having one taking all that weight is probably too much. You're going to get suckage and it's not going to sound good. I like doing little things on everything that I do. I like doing little things a lot, so it's like, yeah, use a few different ones, pile them up and listen to them, change the settings, and then they build a little sound for themselves too. And certain limiters have certain sounds, so yeah, that's kind of, you'll see that's coming up in the course, dynamics. Mastering tip: you get good bass track but kick sometimes disappears, especially mid and high, and it's just as how to make it punchy, a little bit more clicky, and cut through the track very stable. Yeah, but it's in the course. There's no point in me going into it here really, because you'll see in the course how I get bass tight and how I can get it punchy. So it's a whole thing in itself. So I'm not going to answer that here because I do it in the course quite heavily. Is it a quality issue to have a Blackline Audio mod to the Rosetta 800? Mine is stock at the moment. Apparently it sounds great. I mean, they're going to change some of the chips out on your Rosetta, so they're going to make it, as I said earlier about a Rosetta, they're going to make it probably a little bit more modern sounding and a little bit, it's going to sound better. I'd speak to Black Lion and see what they suggest, see how different it is. See if they've got any audio of before and after, so you can see whether it's an improvement before you go spending money, because you might be better off selling your Rosetta and with the money you were going to pay for the upgrades and the Rosetta price, getting something that's already up there and sounding good, like a Prism, if it's an 800 Prism Titan or one of those, so that you've still got your 8 ins and outs. What RMS should a mix engineer aim for giving you a pre-master? RMS probably I mean, really, RMS, I don't know what it works out as RMS, if I'm totally honest. Probably about, I'll make it up, -20, something like that, which is kind of, as long as it's not, you want to go PPM really when you're delivering mixes to a mastering engineer. So I'd always say just get it up to sort of -1 ppm, because, or -5, so that you've got some space. A lot of the time you're gonna have to turn it down anyway, but it's like, really, if I say to people get it to a point, I just tell them don't let it peak over 0 ppm and don't put a limiter on it. So bring it back so it's moving but not hitting digital 0, because I don't want it to distort and I don't want them to limit it. So as long as they've done that, I can then pull it down before I go into my equipment and do it how I want. I'm always going to adjust the gain going in anyway, whether that's more or less, so that doesn't really matter as long as they're not clipping. How do you clip the Rosetta 800 if the last analog piece of gear is a max waves limiter? Well, you don't put the max wave limiter as the last bit of kit. Don't use the limiter and just push signal. Exactly. Limiter, put the limiter after your Rosetta. You don't have the limiter before the Rosetta. If you've got it before the Rosetta, that means that you're, if I'm right, thinking that that's a digital limiter. So then you're using their conversion in there, because they'll be going analog in, analog out. So you're using their converter, which is more processing. So bin that off. You want to keep that in the digital world if it's the hardware limiter. So no, don't use it. Use limiter afterwards as either as a digital in and out, or use plugins for limiting. How do I find adapting to current trends in sound? I don't really, because I just master to how I want it to sound. And so I just get it to sound to the level that it needs to be, and mastering hasn't changed. You're not trying to do mastering for how... Okay, how do I answer this? The thing is, right, the mix is going to sound a certain way. It's going to have been recorded in a certain way, and the mix is going to sound to the sound of the genre that you're doing. When it comes to mastering, you're not thinking about that sound. All you're thinking about is the veneer and does it need more top or more bottom? And if it's a track that's got loads of low end in, then there's a reason for it having loads of low end in, because it's probably a club track or a hip hop track or something that needs loads of bass. If it's got no bass in and it's a guitar thing, then you know, okay, this is how a guitar thing sounds, and it needs to be bright and edgy. And if somebody wants something, they've usually sorted that by the mix, and the mix is kind of sounding how it wants to be. And you're, as a mastering engineer, you're just kind of cleaning stuff up and opening things up, or tightening stuff, or hitting bass. You don't want to be thinking about, okay, it's that style, so I'm going to do that sound. You're making it sound good. That's all you're doing, and making it sound good for that genre. So no track wants to be, every track wants to be tight in the low end, open in the tops. Every track wants to be in the mids, snappy and sharp. So that's really it. And then how much brightness and stuff you put on is more down to, no one wants their track harsh and hurting their ears, even if you're Skrillex. Skrillex wants it smashed to death. He's giving you a smashed to death mix. He's not going to give you some really dynamic mix. It's going to be pretty crushed. So, you know, you have to work with the mix that you've got, and they're going to have to realise that the only way they're going to get that sounding different is by giving you the mix that works, and then you're going to sculpt that from there. So I hope you understand what I mean from that. Do we look at playback devices with poor D2A and internal limiters like mobile phones and laptops? Yeah, don't use a poor D2A, basically, I don't think. Yes to the cream, you're right. I'd be interested in buying one at a discount. Okay, I'll ask them. I have Steve, so you've got the Teglia cream. It's great, isn't it? Love it. Let's order 50, okay. Do you use Vertigo? No. I used RW45, that's right, that's for the rock wool. Angel, have you tried the Millennia NSQ4 hardware? You'll be amazed. The Millennia, I did have that at one stage. I had the hardware version, and it had the Fred Fossil mod on it. It was really good, I liked it, but again, I had loads of other EQs that were doing similar stuff. It's nice, it sounds great, yeah, it's really nice. I've got a UAD version of it as well. I haven't used that because I'm using other stuff. But yeah, if you like it, use it. I'll give it another go and try it out. Now you've mentioned it, you've sparked my interest again. But yeah, I had the hardware, I liked it, but I had, at the time, I had a Sontec, a Masalek, a GM, I had everything. It was mental. So it was like, get rid of them, I'm not using them. So they had to go. Question about recall outboard gear. Do you have recall sheets? Val, I use Evernote for my recall for hardware gear. So I take photographs, I put the artist name and the track, and then I take photographs with it because I can zoom in, see stuff so much quicker. I used to use recall sheets, and it was just, well, before we had smartphones, and it was just a nightmare. So as soon as Evernote came along, or I could take photographs, then it was great. But Evernote's brilliant because you can just keep them all in one doc and then keep them all in one folder within Evernote. So yeah, check it out if you don't use Evernote. It's a joy. Mastering EQs like the Clariphonic, yeah, amazing. Mag 4, great. Have I used these hardware and software versions? A question, do you like Streaky Bacon? No, I'm vegetarian, so it's quite ironic. Do I like the Clariphonic and Mag 4? Yeah, both great, both brilliant. Both have got their uses. Again, I'm not using them, but you can use them. There's nothing to say you can't use these things. In the course, I'm showing you how I master and what I use right now for mastering and how I use it and why I use it. Now, things come and go all the time. I'm changing. Sometimes I'll get something in and I'll try it and I'll change it and I'll keep it and blah, blah. That's cool. It doesn't stay in the rack if I don't like it, or it doesn't stay in the plugin folder if I don't like it. But yeah, you can do, most things do the same thing, let's be honest. A compressor is a compressor, an EQ is an EQ. And there are various curves and various releases and things, and you have to use your ears and see if you like them. So yeah, they've got their place, definitely, and use them at your will. But you need to just, yeah, just if you're going to use them for a lot and use them so that you really get to know them and know their ins and outs. So yeah, Ian, would be great if you could try and get a discount on FabFilter plugins. Yeah, okay, I'll try that. But FabFilter are they're a little bit tight on that kind of stuff. I've asked them in the past, but I'll give them another go. Janice, working hybrid. Would I lose quality to work with just one computer and a D2A converter instead of a player and recorder system? I've done both. At the moment, I'm not using two computers. I'm using one, and I'm using it. I'll usually either sample rate the track before, or I'll sample rate it after I've used it. If it comes in at 96, I'll usually just do the whole session at 96 because then I can get the juice from my hybrid stuff. I've used players before, which is cool. You're not really losing any quality because you're just playing straight into equipment from another D2A. It just means you have to have a D2A on that computer and then a D2A on the other computer so you can hear the same before and after, so they're exactly the same. Ideally, I think that probably is a great way to work. I'm just really into the way that I work now, where it's all in one session and it all goes up and I can monitor well, and I don't have to mess about with two computers and have all that stuff. I just like it where I can just use, it's just all in one. I like that, the way I'm working at the moment. It seems to work really well. So it's totally up to you. It's just workflow, really. What's going to get you working quickly? John Davis at Metropolis uses two. He uses Wavelab, I think, on the player. You can get different sounding players as well, so you might like that rather than going through. You might want to just have a different sample rate going in and then capturing at another sample rate. As I say, I don't tend to do that a lot. I prefer just to do it in the session at the sample rate it comes in at, or I'll just take it down to 44.1 straight away, depending on the artist, depending how the track sounds. I mean, I go into the RX thing on the course where I'm show you how I do that and why. So I don't know, does that answer your question? I hope so. Christ, I'm getting a bit throaty. November 99 sounds powerful in a sense of presence. I don't know an answer to that at the moment. Sorry. Poeter, if you work hybrid, what is your order of hardware first and then details on software, or vice versa? I mean, I go out into my gear, but I might have an EQ before I go out into the gear. I might not. It depends if I need it. And then I go through a chain that I use and that I like. It's the same chain as I go through on the EQ section on the course. Same equipment. A few different bits and pieces, but not a lot. And then I go back in and you'll see I do some processing in the box, because I can only get so loud with the A to D. So then I'll do some other stuff in the box that sounds good, that I like. So I don't know if that really is answering your question, but yeah, I mean, you've really got to just go, okay, do I need something before the equipment, or do I need stuff after? I'm always doing something after, but if I need something before, usually an EQ before, but a lot of the times I don't have anything out before. I'm just using that for level gain, really, the first stage of that, and then I go into my equipment. When I say I'll go back to this, November 99 presence dial on the guitar tuner. Is that lower mids you described when you wrote, I use this to remind me to try to adding nothing to the top end and work with the bass and low mids instead to gain space? When I work from the bottom up. Well, bottom up. In fact, that's how I listen. I listen to the bottom up. So I will always sort the low end out, and then I'll go through the mids. And by the times I've done that, usually the top end have sorted themselves out, and that is what you want, because by adding loads of top end, it can start thinning it out and not making it sound nice. If it is really dull still after I've got the bass and things tight and sorted and leveled, then I'll add a little bit of top to it. But I'll try not to add too much, because it starts sounding thin and weak and cheap. So that track reminds me of how the top end is so smooth, and if you can get the low mids and the bass working and with space and distance and stuff, it just sounds really nice. So that's how that's an answer there. Aaron, would you use the backs before hitting your A to D? Yeah, or at the first stage, or at first. Oh, okay. So is it at the front or back of the chain? You're saying I always use it at the front of the chain. Discount on Sonar Works, please. Do they do 50% off students? Okay, perhaps Streaky students can get it too. I'll ask them, because I know Sonar Works. Sorry, do you mean by low mids to gain space? Yes, low mids. When Emika, when first getting clients, how long would you say is a reasonable time for turnaround? Especially if you're doing it for free to start with to build up your portfolio. Would you start working for free or a small fee at the start? It's always good to charge people, because they're going to feel like it's a business, it's a contract then, isn't it, between you and them. They've given you something, even if it's $10, $20, something like that. They've given you something and you've got something. So you're doing a job then. You're then a professional. You're not an amateur. So it is good to charge them whatever you think you're worth at that point. Build that up. But always charge something. Even if it's doing someone a return favour, but always charge something so that there's some kind of exchange of money, because they'll always expect it for free otherwise. And I think that if you're starting totally from scratch, I mean, would I be free? I mean, yeah, just from nothing at all. Yeah, free, why not? Just get in the work and do it. But really, you want to try and say, I would rather be doing, okay, look, I'll do this for you on spec, and then I'll give you, if you like it, you pay me. If you don't like it, don't pay me, right? So then at least you've got some kind of contract in place, with the verbal contract in place with them. Because I think otherwise, you're not getting going. You need to get going, because otherwise you might get stuck at the point where you think, oh God, I can't charge people, or the people that have had it for free, they won't want to pay. And then you get in this thing, well, how much am I worth? Am I worth that? But if you're charging straight out the gate, you can build up with that small amount of work and then keep charging in increments. So I think that you should charge a small fee. Yeah. Angel, Streaky, I have a 9 hardware for mixing and mastering gear, plus my Prism and Antelope Orion. Oh geez, that went big when I pushed the button. And I want to change, that's 11 units, I want to change the power cables on them, but this is a lot of cash. Can I buy for a start just 5 power cables? Yeah, you don't have to change them all, just change them as you go. I'm always adding to mine. I'm always looking out for bargains on eBay to add to my system, because you can't ever have enough. You can't ever have, you're always getting better stuff. You don't have to just do one massive change. Change a few, keep changing them over time as things come up. I mean, to do a massive buy of a load of leads is going to cost you an arm and a leg. So yeah, just do a little bit. It doesn't make any difference. It's just going to get better and better, isn't it? So the more you can afford, the quicker you can get them, then yeah, definitely. And then I ask which one will benefit most, my Lyra or Orion, or yeah, you want to get your whatever's going to your D to A and A to D, you want to be the best. So sort out the power on that first of all, and the cables that you've got going in and out. That would be my first port of call, and then after that I would start doing the interconnects on the equipment. But yeah, first of all, definitely sort out the what's going in and out of your converters, because that's obviously the main point of call. But you're then going to start having different sounds. Pierre, backs or tilt shift on fab filter? They're totally different beasts. So both, but they're totally different beasts. So different uses for both of those. Did the record label clients come from working in big studios and now carried over flying solo? If not, how did I get them? Okay, so I've always been fortunate enough to work at studios where I've had big clients coming in, or being part of somewhere they send stuff over to that studio. So I did get those credits from doing that. So yeah, I've still got work, a lot of work that I do. It comes still from people I met 20 years ago, which is why I say all the time on my videos, just keep networking and keep talking to people, and then they'll know you, you get to work with them. If you can get them to attend, even better, because then you build up a relationship with them. How do I get clients now? I mean, it's a bit different for me because I've got a reputation. So I know producers and people know me, so they'll suggest me for projects. So for me, that's how I get business now. I know it's different for me, but all I would suggest is who you know, and you've got a network like mad. So whether or not you're speaking to artists or producers, or whether you're going to gigs or joining groups that you know these people are in, or you just need to network and get yourself out there. No one's just going to come to you, no matter what. You know, it's like getting a girlfriend. You're not going to find a girlfriend in your bedroom, so you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to search people. You're going to have to get yourself online. You're going to have to speak to people and just get your name out there, get chatting to people, and do some stuff for free for people, and then ask them, you know, and then and I'm going back to what I said about not doing it for free, but if it's for a record label, do it for nothing. And, you know, because you're trying to build your CV so that people see it and then they'll naturally come to you. So, yeah, that'd be my advice on getting clients. Do I use the FabFilter Saturn? No. Thanks, G-Man. No problem. Poeta. Do you use any ambience processors like the K Stereo? No. All that sort of shit is just shit, and it offends me. It's just bollocks. All this fucking bullshit about, like, you can see I'm swearing and everything. I don't know, it's just like people so overthink it, and there's so many little gadgets and saturation and this, that and the other, and it's like, don't worry about it. Just get an EQ, get a compressor, and you'll get it sounding good. It's not changed for the last 25 years. All these little sort of things that people build, they're not, you know, a lot of them are just making stuff, it's just extra processing for no point. So, yeah, no, I don't use any of that stuff. No, just think old school. Just think compressor, limiter, EQ, and then from there, variations upon a theme. And then it's like, and you're going to make it sound good. There's no big mastering engineer that's using gadgets and loads of different weird plugins. They're all using a compressor, a limiter, and an EQ. That's all they're doing, all of them. So forget all of that other stuff. Frank, mastering on near fields, yes or no? I feel like I'm missing out on full range sound dealing with subs. Near fields are great for doing mids and that's it really. So I would master on near fields to kind of detail up on the mids, but you're going to need to have full range speakers to be able to hear the subs, and you need to know what's going on down there. Most tracks these days have sub in, even if it's a kick drum or a low bass in a band. It's most things you need to be able to hear down that low. So you're going to need full range speakers. I'm dealing with a sub crossover to deal with. Always have some overlap. Okay, crossover for a sub 80 hertz. Try that. That should work. I have no problem with this mixing, but mastering is a different beast. Yeah, mastering and mixing are totally different things. So do your mixing, leave it a couple of days, and then do your mastering. You're not going to be able to do the same on the same day or at the same time because it's not going to sound as good. You'll get in the ballpark when you mix and master at the same time, but you're not going to get that 20%. And if you're doing this course, you're here to get that 20%. You're not here to get in the ballpark. Any Tom, Dick or Harry can get in the ballpark. We can just use a limiter and turn it up. We're going to get in the ballpark. Or we can smash a mix into a limiter or smash it into compressors on your mix bus, and you're going to get it in the ballpark. But we're here to deal with the 20%. So that's what you'll learn from this course. It's the 20%. It's the taking it to that level so it sounds polished and it's got that sheen and the detail all over it, and that's what you want to get. It's like so mixing and mastering together, no. So in terms of networking, would you say, okay, first get some business cards, build a website? Listen, look, you're going to need a website. Everyone's going to search you up, aren't they? So make sure your social profiles are pucker. Make sure that your website's good. Business cards, unless you're in Japan, no one's really going to care less. I've never given a business card out in my life. It's not cool. You're dealing with people that are A&R men and stuff. Last thing they want is a load of business cards hanging around. You don't want to be that guy, where it's like you're in their face and all that sort of thing, because they're not going to give you any work if you're in their face. You have to kind of go around it a different way. It's like going up to a girl and asking her to sleep with you straight away. It's not going to happen. So, well, unless she's desperate, and that would be the same with an A&R guy. But you've got to kind of court them and things like that, and hang out at the same places that A&R men are hanging out, whether that's online or not. But you need profiles to then be able to go back so that they're going to search you up, aren't they, straight away. So make sure that you've got all that covered off. Right, it's 10 past 8, I'm going to have to go. So this is the last one. Can you tell us about sidechain settings on your Avalon 747? What's your goal? Sidechain settings, I'm really just dealing with the low end on the 747. You'll have to play with it yourself and kind of work with it. It's more just to do with getting some tubes on the low end for me on the 747. It's a brilliant bit of kit if you get a chance to buy one. They've stopped making them, but yeah, sidechain, that's all I'm doing is low end smack and warmth really. I don't use it on everything though, so go easy. Don't think just because I've got it on now that I'm using it all the time, because sometimes it's too much cream, so you don't want that and it doesn't work. So use your ears and yeah, that's all I would say. What do I think about Apple EarPods? They do the job that they do. I've got some here, and they when I go to the gym they work really well. But I'd never master with them or work on them or even reference off them because I don't need to. If it sounds good on my big speakers, it will sound good everywhere. That's the kind of attitude you want, really. So yeah. So I hope this has helped. I hope I've answered most of your questions. I'm going now because I'm tired and I've been working mega today. And so next Thursday I'll try and get it back to the normal time at 5 o'clock. Yeah, thanks. I hope it's been informative. Thanks, Ian. If you've got any questions, then please get them ready for next week. I hope you're enjoying the course. I hope if there's anything you want me to say in the course that I'm not saying or anything you don't understand, then please do let me know, because I am tweaking it all the time and I will carry on tweaking it. So just keep telling me what you're missing and what you don't understand. And then I'll be able to make it even better for you. I will tell you when new things have gone into old weeks, so that if you are on week 2 and something's gone into week 1, you'll see. And so yeah, hopefully you'll see it develops with it. So yeah, I hope you're getting something out of it, and I'm giving you enough value, if you like. So all right, till next time. Thanks for watching. Till next Thursday. Bye bye.